really wonderful to be back here again. It's been a long time. Can you hear me? Okay, yeah.
But only if you get up close.
Right, and okay. I hate these things. At any rate, it's wonderful to be back again. I'm sorry Hilda can't be with us, and I miss Ina very much. And my husband misses her apricot squares, her wonderful apricot squares. These are some new poems. I guess, as is typical of many people my age, the experiences of my past couple of years have been loss and the gradual disappearance of many things I care about, and the changes to things that cannot be reversed. And so I've been in a pretty melancholy mood the past couple of years. And so I suppose these poems certainly will reflect that. So I'm sorry if you're not up for a little more melancholy on a lovely Sunday afternoon, but here goes. This first one is called Diminuendo. Something is happening to your words. The word you want is a bright fish snagged in a net. You can't cut it free. You try to make space, clean out the cellar. The closets packed full of things have pulled in their sides. Decades of overcoats and good dresses, boots and pocketbooks, odds are you'll never use again. How everything recedes seems underwater, too far down to reach, and your arms are heavy and dull with trying. One day the jacket hangs as if it were cut for a person twice your size, as if you have melted. You have no shoulders. Impossible not to hunch. This poem is about my mother and the fact that my life has gone on beyond my life with her. Seasons. This spring came and went without you. Lilacs burst and burnt themselves out. Cold rain pasted mock orange petals to the walk. I hardly noticed the changing of the birds. Wrens displaced our chickadees and loudly from the finial sang. It was a new order, a new world. I looked for you. Envelopes of seed you saved and labeled, brandywine, dragon tongue. I sorted and set out, sowing and tending, half expecting to see you bending over the emerging rose. In the orderliness of first green, I watched for a sign. Then, summer. This poem is called Singleton. You must be the one when all who would have understood are gone, and there are none to ask, what color was her hair? What was the name of her village? Where was she on the day the Great War ended? You must be the one still standing, the one carried over into the next column, prime number, pillar, upright, the one who touches old things, breathing the scent of dried roses when no roses are there, the one who finds the baby curl tied with silk in the bottom of a drawer, or senses the impression of feet that trod the grasses down in passing and passing again. You, the one who listens all night for the voices in the leaves, looks for faces in the patterns of the bathroom tile. What did she see? Birds, she said. And on the day she died, you saw in the figures angels rising, long silver trumpets in their hands uplifted, and you wanted to tell her. What is one but part of something else? Splintered, filament, shard, ache, everlasting, part of everything but a part. This summer I lost a very close friend, cancer. She suffered a long time, and it's a comfort to know that she's at peace, but we miss her terribly. Shortly after she died, next day, I was out in my garden, and I had a rather strange encounter with a butterfly. This is called small-eyed sphinx, and it has a little note. Please understand that insects do not adhere to man-drawn borders on a map, and they may be found beyond the general reach as depicted here. Butterflies and moths of New York State. Small-eyed sphinx. In my garden, weeds have taken hold. I spend the day wrenching them away before my seedlings choke. I think of you, dear friend, and my vision blurs. A week ago today, and oh, how you didn't want to go. 5 years of every conceivable thing, Reiki, purges, chemo, radiation, meditation. You bought bright clothes, covered your baldness with gypsy scarves. When we stopped by that last time, you offered tea. Sorry you could not get up to serve us. Birds we talked about and flowers, our dead mothers and their gardens. Good days on the porch, you could see the trees you and Bill planted, redbuds and dogwood, how they'd shot up these past few years. Something brushes my face, touches my lips, comes to rest on my shoulder. Small-eyed sphinx on its way somewhere. Bill keeps the lawns trimmed, the flowers weeded to please you. This is a little thing called wisps. Your blonde hair's caught on my winter coat, long strands like streamers on the handles of a child's bicycle. It just keeps coming out, you said, hugging me when you stopped by that day. I was shoveling. Your most recent round of chemo, this time stronger, a more aggressive regimen. Tomorrow, you would have no energy, would not eat. Sick all night, all the next day. Call me, you said, next week. Call me and we'll get together. You left me a handmade notebook. I haven't written in it yet. Let's see. I was born on the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year. So the summer solstice has always rather fascinated me, being the complete opposite of that. And I know, at least living here as long as I have, the light is so precious and so gorgeous, and to watch it slip away after you hit, the summer solstice is just heartbreaking. So this is called After the Summer Solstice. Mid-July, already light begins draining quietly. This morning, the meteorologist says we will lose 2 minutes. Where have they gone? Perhaps on the other side of the world, someone observes them in her garden. Someone as glad to see them as I am reluctant to seed them. The Northeast has so much darkness. Now the balance tips. We've had our longest day. Can you understand? These nights I don't want to go in, don't want to miss the twilight flowers' phosphorescence. The voices of the birds and trees soften, fireflies flick on, flick off, strawberry moon presiding, an old story. But I am well past my equinox. How can I ignore it? Only so many summers, so much light, and I am spending, burning daylight, as characters in old westerns say. It leaves a fine black ash. And by way of closing, completely different, it's amazing to me that the First World War began 100 years ago. I knew people who fought in the First World War, and to them it was the war. That was what they meant when they said the war. My grandmother was a telephone operator for the period of the emergency, as it was called, in Washington, D.C. She was 15. She grew up on a farm in Herkimer, New York. There was little to no opportunity in Herkimer, New York. So she left to go down to Washington, D.C. to be a telephone operator. And she lived in a dormitory in Washington, D.C. It was the first time in her life she'd ever been in a city. She had many adventures. That always fascinated me, and I could always hear in her voice her telephone operator training whenever I called her. Her phone number is emblazoned in my head. It's never going away. And I've always wondered, what happens to your phone number? Like 20 years after it's not yours anymore. Does somebody else have it? If you call it, will somebody answer it? So the title of this poem is Her Phone Number, and the poem is about my grandmother. Whitney 55496. Sometimes I wonder if your number still rings. It's been decades. I've wanted to call you for so long, just dial you up, no smartphone, no push buttons, and hear the smooth rotation, put my fingers in the little holes, hold the big receiver to my ear, and you'd be there. I can still see what was at the other end. Glossy, bakelite, dignified, high-shouldered, tethered by corkscrew cable, set atop the special table in the vestibule, matching chair beside, and heavy book of numbers. A crocheted doily beneath the padded feet, little idol, onyx god. You stepping in from the kitchen, wiping your hands on your apron, settling down for a good conversation. We spoke every Sunday. World War I, hard times, you left the farm, telephone girl, down to Washington, big city, emergency, war work. Every week, your mother sent a roast chicken by train. You had to sit up straight, speak the permitted vocabulary distinctly. Daughter of German immigrants, you were connecting America. Yours the voice in how many ears? One of the weavers of speech. And you were good at it. Knew your board, switches, wires, plugs, and jacks. Little lights like ordered fireflies on and off as your fingers moved among the cords, making swift connections. Whenever I rang and you answered, your hello never changed. Thank you very much.